What's up, painting friends? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Stoof. Today we're going to do an acrylic painting tutorial. This is an 8" by 8" canvas. It's a 1.5" thick canvas. This painting is inspired from a photograph that I took on Hilton Head Island in South Carolina. I was going for a morning walk on the beach, and there was this nice little tide pool, shallow area during low tide where a bird was fishing. And there's like this really calm water and this little ripple that he created from walking. We're ready to get started with this painting. If you look at my palette here, we have our acrylic paints. We have titanium white, we have apricot, burnt sienna, burnt umber. This is cerulean blue, ultramarine blue, Payne's gray. If you don't have that, you could just use black. This is just a very dark gray. This is a cadmium yellow pale. This is violet, or maybe it's like a magenta violet. Looks a little warmer than regular violet. It's deep violet, that's the name of that one. This is that chromium oxide green. This is a light sap green, Prussian green. These two are very close, so if you have one or the other, you're good. This is a vermilion red, so a nice warm red. And this is our yellow ochre. And there's a chance I won't use all of these colors, but I have them there just in case we need them. I also have a paper towel for when I make a mess, and I have a cup of water for cleaning off my brushes while I'm working on this painting. So I am going to start with this flat-tipped brush, and we're going to take some of our cerulean blue with some white. Just blend those two together. Also going to blend in a hint of my Prussian green. Just want to see how that looks. So that's a very strong Prussian green. Take a little more cerulean blue and white. I'm just making a new spot here. Alright, that's a good color to start with. And our sky is going to be the top third. So if we put this into thirds, our top third is going to be the sky. So we're just going to make a little line there, and going to continue that along the sides since I'm painting the sides. And we're going to start with a little more cerulean blue and white. And we'll just paint that right here, back and forth. Keep adding more cerulean blue. And we'll start to add a hint of ultramarine blue. Going to put that color at the top. So we're just keeping that back and forth motion until I completely cover up the whole upper third of the canvas here. I'm going to take a little more white and add that to the base of the sky here. Alright, now we're going to let that dry. And we're going to make our way down. So I'm going to clean off this brush. I want to keep using the same paintbrush. This is a good one. And we're just going to start with the dunes. So I'm taking some white and a little bit of apricot and a hint of our cadmium yellow pale. Take a little more white. And as you can see, there was a tiny little hint of that blue that was still in my brush. And that just cooled this down a tiny bit. If you have like a lot of blue left, it's going to turn your color blue, so make sure you clean your brush off relatively well. And this is just going to go right here in the middle portion. Now we are going to move down. We're going to take a little of our burnt umber, some ultramarine blue, blend those two together. And I'm going to take a hint of my chromium oxide green as well, a little bit more white, and a little bit of that Payne's gray. It seems really dark, but that is because this is wet sand. And we're just going to do the same thing, go back and forth, getting nice even coverage on the canvas. And we're going to keep moving down. We'll add more detail later. But now we want to work on this little pool here. So I'm going to take some of my ultramarine blue and some of my cerulean blue and some of my deep violet. And the violet's kind of in the center part here. Then we're going to take some more of our brown, our burnt umber, and some of our oxide green, a little white, a little bit of apricot, and some more brown. I'm going to put that at the very bottom. Again, get a nice full coverage of paint on the canvas. Don't leave any white spots. Keep those back and forth brush strokes. Here I just took some straight cerulean blue and I'm adding that. Then we're gonna take the extra paint off the brush, go back to our cerulean blue with white, put that right up at the edge of this. Alright, so I'm just cleaning off my brush, and now we have the base layer of paint on there, and our sky is dry, so we can start working on the puffy clouds in the sky. So I'm switching to a round brush. This is a fine round tipped brush, and that's a great brush for clouds. So we are going to take some white, some ultramarine blue, hint of burnt umber, and a hint of the Payne's gray. And that is going to be, let's take a little more ultramarine blue, and that's going to be our shadow color for the clouds here. So we've got, just going to start adding some shadows under the clouds. I think I'm going to add a little bit more cerulean blue in there too. Alright, there we go. And our clouds are just kind of cumulus, puffy little clouds. Pushing the brush into the canvas. The bristles are kind of long, so it's not putting too much force into the canvas. It's giving me that really puffy cloud look. I don't have too much paint on the brush. As you can see, I haven't added any more paint yet. I'm just continuing to work in the shadows that are on here. Alright, now we can take some white. I did not fully clean off the brush here because I don't want to have pure white just yet. And I'm just going and making these little puffy highlights. We can build up our layers so we don't have to go too crazy with that first layer. We can start pretty subtle and then work our way up. We can add some little cirrus clouds like way far up here just by adding a little bit of water to your paint and really thinning down your white and just going back over those. Just adds a couple little clouds. Take a little more brown with our cerulean blue and our ultramarine blue. And I'm going to take a little more white. And we'll start building up those shadows a little more. Now we're just going to take some more white and keep building up those highlights. Mix my oxide green with my burnt umber and a little bit of ochre. Take some more, let's take some of that Prussian green. And we're just going to throw in some little spikes of that green. Dipping the brush in the water a bit just to thin it down and making some little diagonal motions so that I can create the look of some grasses. Gonna blend that in with that sand color, add a little more ochre. I'm gonna use that as a little highlight color. Just blending my burnt umber with my yellow ochre into the greens a bit, just to make them a little bit less green, a little more of that grassy yellow. A little bit more of a shadow in some spots. I'm going to mix my green with my brown. Okay, now I'm cleaning off the brush really well. And we're going to make some more of that sand color with the apricot and the white, hint of yellow. I'm just going to put that in between a few of these little spots here. I'm going to try to get that paint on there pretty thick so you can't see the grasses underneath. I'm going to switch back to that medium brush and we're going to take some white with a tiny little dab of Payne's Gray and mix that in with the initial color we had. A little more apricot and burnt umber. More white. Just want to make that white go from warm to cool basically, without a huge color transition, just a warmth transition. And then we're going to take some more of that burnt umber and ultramarine blue with a hint of the violet color. And I'm just going to put that here, basically just going over what I had before, trying to get that nice smooth transition again with my blend. Now I'm going to take my liner brush and I'm going to touch up those grasses again. So I'm going to take some of my yellow ochre, get this nice and wet. Just start to add some little lines here for the grasses. Got the dunes looking more realistic. Now let's take some of the yellow ochre, with a little bit of that sand color, and a little bit of our yellow. And we're just going to add the little more yellow. And we're going to add those nice little like wheat grass looking stuff that's in the dunes here. Let's get a couple little divots in the sand here. So I'm just going to take a little hint of my it's like a little bit of a shadow color there. We'll take a little bit of burnt umber. And we'll just add a couple little pockets of some shadows in here. And just take a little more brown and apricot. Start to add some of those subtle colors in here. Alright, transition's looking nice. And now let's work on this shadow. Just gonna mix some brown, Payne's gray in with that bluish color. And we're gonna water that down and just get this nice little border here. Making little squiggly lines. Not keeping it perfect. Now for our water here, this is all dry, so we can add the bird. Just gonna take some white. The bird, his head is right here. He's got just like a straight line and a bit of a diagonal for his chest. Chest comes down just a little more. Just fill that in. And the angle is about 45 degrees, and then it gets steeper. And he's got his beak. Just gonna take some of our Payne's gray, a little bit of burnt umber, get that nice and blended, and just make a straight line at a angle. About that. He's got some yellow. Mix a little yellow ochre in there as well. And that's just right here. This bird has some nice feathers that kind of come off his head like this. Just gonna take a little bit of that ultramarine blue, white, into Payne's gray, and add some little shadows under the bird. Now I've got a little shadow of the bird, which has some black in it, and a little ochre, and white. Some cerulean or black. Let's take a little bit of burnt sienna. And then we basically just have the opposite of what we're seeing here. Let me darken that down a little more. So it's gonna get bigger there. It's gonna come back to this spot. The ripples in the water next. So I'm gonna take my liner brush and we're gonna throw a ripple in. Gonna mix my ultramarine blue with Payne's gray and some cerulean, maybe a hint of violet. A little tiny one about right here. I'm gonna put a bigger one around it. And then I got a bigger ripple, big circle, like about like this. And I'm just taking a little bit of water on my flat tip brush just to fix up some of these little spots in between. Alright guys, I'm going to narrate over my painting now. I was narrating as I was painting in the previous part of this video, but for these ripples and this water, I just had not a fun time. I don't know if you could tell by my energy that I was starting to get frustrated, but I was. I don't know if it's because I was using acrylics instead of oils. I usually don't have this much trouble painting ripples, but this was really frustrating me this day when I was painting. I was using the acrylic paints here, and I was trying to water it down and like make the paint thinner like I usually do with oils, but I don't know if it was like the camera angle, having the camera in front of my arm. I ended up like sticking my head in front of the camera at one point here just to try to get a better angle for painting and seeing, but those arcs were really tough for me. But anyway, now that we're going fast here and we're going over all my mistakes and all of my repaints, I'm just going to give you a brief overview of how to do these ripples. So you have a highlight and a shadow where the light is reflecting on the ripple of the water, and then the shadow side. And we have more shadows on the foreground side because it's lighter farther away from us, so you want to have more of your brighter highlights on the far side of the bird. As you can see, you could have done all the ripples first and then do the bird. That could have helped as well, because I had to keep retouching up around the bird every time I redid an arc, because to get that perfect arc for the ripple shape, I had to go over the bird or else it wasn't going to connect properly. So you also have a couple little highlights inside the ripple ovals that kind of go in towards the center, and you'll have a couple little shadows there as well. I kept touching up the shadow under the bird just to make sure we had that effect that made it look like it was a reflection of the bird and there was still that ripple being caught, visible through the reflection of the bird. Once I got the shapes for the ripples, then it was fine, but getting those shapes was the toughest part for me. And I'll admit, it's still not perfect, but I was really struggling that day. Sometimes I just have off days, and this was definitely one of those days. But here's the finished painting. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Thank you, Dina, for putting on the Bluebird Art Challenge. I'm looking forward to seeing everybody else's paintings and art creations in this playlist. If you recreate this piece, then you can put it on your Instagram and tag me, The Painting Stoof, so I can see it, or you can put it right on my Facebook page so I can see it. The Painting Stoof is my page name. I'm looking forward to seeing your art. Thanks for stopping by. Have a great day and happy painting. Bye bye.